Good morning, I'm Frank Powers, and this is Lifestyle Tucson, the program where I speak to our neighbors, the people behind the scenes of our amazing organizations, small businesses, and nonprofits. Our friends are informing you how they serve our community, and they're here to give you updates on future projects. So let's make some new friends today. When I started hosting Lifestyle Tucson some 40-something episodes ago, go subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, I began to take notice of all the organizations in town who help who, and how those organizations help each other. One organization's name stood out immediately because its title kind of broke my heart and cuts right to the core of who they are and who they're here to help. Because today I'm here to talk with YOTO, also known as Youth on Their Own. Think about that title, Youth on Their Own. Growing up is hard enough, and I can't fathom doing it without parents around or a home, especially when it comes to education. Youth on Their Own is a dropout prevention program that supports the high school graduation and continued success of youth experiencing homelessness in Pima County. Youth on Their Own's programs focus on three components: financial assistance, basic human needs, and guidance, to ensure that youth experiencing homelessness have the resources necessary to stay in school and graduate. Over 16,000 homeless and compromised students have been empowered to stay in school and pursue opportunities for self-sufficiency since the organization began. And today, I'm fortunate enough to speak with Bethany Neumann, Director of Development and Communications for Youth on Their Own. Bethany, welcome to Lifestyle Tucson.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here.
I'm happy to finally be talking to you. Again, as you heard in that intro and some of what we talked about before we started, it really is such a big organization and such a big cause of what you're trying to help and who you're helping. The title, as I see it on bus stops and bus benches, it's all around. I love your logo, and I love what's going on with your organization because I've been watching it grow literally before my eyes because I live down the street from where you're building your new permanent home that we're going to get into in just a little bit. But first, give us a history lesson on what Youth on Their Own, on how they started and what they're all about.
Sure. Well, thanks. We started a long time ago, actually. We started here in Tucson. We're a Tucson-based and born and bred organization. A counselor at Amphi High School in 1986 named Ann Young, she's still with us, still part of the organization. She noticed that a lot of her students weren't succeeding because of situations beyond their control. They were experiencing homelessness or housing insecurity, difficulties with their families. And so basically, honestly, at the time, she was inviting kids to stay in her house. And at some point, her husband was like, Ann, this is enough. And she started something that would become Youth on Their Own to create a more permanent or, lasting solution to that problem. And it was really a grassroots effort. She got together a bunch of people that she knew, other educators, people from her church, her friends, and they started fundraising and started working together. And through many years, it became the organization that today we know as Youth on Their Own.
Again, helping all those kids. And it's funny how a lot of this starts as like grassroots style things that people don't realize, like, wow, I'm really growing exponentially. We really have to keep growing and really have to change. And I read some of that, how eventually it's like, well, it looks like we have to become a nonprofit. And what a success story, because it happened practically overnight with the amount of money they raised, because such a good cause. I read that she raised $80,000 in just one night because of some great organizations that helped out right in the beginning. That's just huge, because a lot of people really think about these things and it almost feels modern. But as I talk to a lot of organizations, it's like, oh, wow, no, you've been around for quite some time, but growing is just so slow. It takes a lot of nurturing to grow things like this, these big ideas that require help. But luckily, you've gotten a lot of help because your organization is great. And I've talked about other organizations in town that help the smaller organizations. And one of them is Angel Charity for Children. So I was even just at their Halo for Hire event the other day and got to see how you guys spoke there. Who spoke there?
That was our CEO, Elizabeth Slater. She's fabulous.
She is. And she did such a great job talking about what it takes to get the Halo for Hire grant. Don't be afraid. Apply for it. I talked to many different sized organizations, and some of these 501c3s are the ones that really fund the other smaller 501c3s in town that need it, especially when you're helping children. So a big thanks to them, because the money that you guys raised is going to go to your new permanent home, that new facility that's going to be opening up on Country Club, which is very exciting. This used to be the old Southwest University of Visual Arts. So I actually went to that college. That's my alma mater where I got a master's degree. So to watch what happened as that school transitions out of that property, and that's just kind of sitting there, I'm like, well, what's this going to be? I see coming soon Youth on Their Own. And I was flabbergasted and so happy for your organization. Tell me about the effort and everything that went into that and how it felt when all this actually came to fruition.
Well, I've been with YOTO for almost 6 years now. And honestly, since I started, folks have been talking about it. We serve about 1,500 youth a year, and we're a staff of about 35 folks. And we just need more room. When we started, Ann was serving like 10 kids maybe. And so just that amount of growth and where we've moved over the years, we just need the space. So to see it finally happen has really been interesting. It's really been amazing. We bought the building several years ago. COVID was up and running. And so that was its own challenge. And then we were just so lucky to get the Angel Charity for Children grant. They've been a part of YOTO's history since the beginning. They were actually the first grant to our stipend program, which I think we're going to talk about in a bit. But they're basically the ones that kind of got that started. So it's particularly, I think, poetic that their grant this year it's the largest grant to help us pay for this building. It's been a process. I was just there this morning. We had the Community Foundation for Southern Arizona there. And it's great to be able to tour it with folks, to show folks what we're doing. It's finally kind of coming together. We've got a bunch of murals up. The furniture was delivered yesterday. So we're kind of in the final stretch of this amazing process. But it has been interesting. We're going to need a vacation in January for sure.
You deserve it. You deserve it. Now, let's talk about the organization and how it actually all works. Because I'd covered like kind of the 3 topics, but there's a few more topics, but let's dissect them. All right, the first thing I mentioned was how you help kids out with financial assistance. So now how does a kid qualify to get this help?
So we serve McKinney-Vento youth, but we also serve youth who have a more broad definition of homelessness or housing insecurity. Most of the youth we're serving are couch surfing, so they're moving from place to place. I know a lot of folks have been talking about homelessness in Tucson lately. And the vision that they see or the image they see are folks on the corner or encampments. And that's not the reality for most of the students we serve. Most of them, it's more of an invisible issue where they're staying with a friend for a few weeks, with an aunt for another few weeks. But they really don't have anybody who's looking out for them or taking care of them. The best situations would be students who might be staying with grandma perhaps, but she doesn't have the resources or the income to be taking care of children. And so the youth that we serve really need, more than anything, financial assistance to keep them in school instead of working. And that's what YOTO is sort of known for. Again, Angel Charity for Children gave us the first grant. It was $100,000 way back in the 90s for this. But it started our financial assistance program. People know it as the academic stipend. It's an incentive that youth can earn for going to school. So basically, they attend school, they can earn a certain amount of money. It is based on need as well, so there's a tiering to it. But the most a youth can earn right now at the highest level of need, and if they're attending school, is $350 a month.
There you go.
And one of our biggest challenges is, of course, keeping pace with inflation. As costs have gone up, that incentive needs to go up to make sure that it's enough for kids to keep going to school. And that's been the biggest challenge that we've had. We have right now 300 more youth than we anticipated having at the program right now. So right now our biggest need is more funding for stipends.
When you talk about couch surfers, because I know that sometimes, like I've even been friends with some kids that like were choosing to be homeless and they traveled on the trains and they'd go to California, they'd come back, they were pals. Do you need to like prove residence of being here, or like how do you do that?
The youth that we serve just need to be attending school in Pima County. So they can be attending charter schools or public schools. The vast majority are in the public school systems or TUSD, Flowing Wells, kind of the bigger districts. And we don't ask them for their residency, their documentation status, any of that. We're just there to help youth graduate from high school.
Amazing. So let's talk about what youth needs. They need human needs, basic human needs. How do you do that? Because I hear malls are not popular, but you've got a mini mall.
We do have a mini mall. It's the space where youth can come to get whatever they need: free food, free hygiene products, school supplies. We, especially during COVID, are giving out a lot of Chromebooks, computers, bicycles. So anything basically that their parents would be helping them with, had their parents been there and able to take care of them. So youth can come into the mini mall and get what they need. Or we actually have what we call the YOTO portal, the student portal. Youth can order online, and we have lovely volunteers who come in and they package these orders up in bags. And then we have another group of lovely volunteers who take them out every Wednesday morning to schools, where they're given to the contact that we have at each school. We call it a YOTO liaison. And then the students can pick it up at their school from that person instead of having to come into the office. Because we serve youth as far away as Sells. all of Pima County. And we know realistically they're not going to be able to make it into the YOTO office every week. We hope with the new space, because it'll be much bigger, much more welcoming, much easier to hang out there. We're going to have washers and dryers. There'll be a shower there. It'll be more of a congregating space, but currently we have a very small mini mall, and youth need to realistically get those things they need without necessarily having to come in every single week.
Yeah, obviously that's a huge thing. And it's great because a lot of the way the mini mall gets, what it has is community members and organizations, businesses, and it's people donating. Like the idea, you're not exactly going out there and buying tons of bikes, but if you have an old bike, donate it. Help these kids get transportation. A bicycle is such a huge thing for anyone to get around and can help a lot. It's a vehicle. It can really just, make a difference in someone's lives by getting them a bicycle. So that's even interesting because I was just thinking, it's deodorant, it's toothpaste, but wow, imagine that. And Chromebooks too.
Laptops in general, but Chromebooks tend to be pretty cheap. So
yeah, well, that's what you need.
And these days in school, it's sort of a necessity. And especially during COVID, that was a huge issue for youth who didn't have the resources to stay in school. They didn't have the computer they needed to connect. And now that continues to be part of a lot of school programs. And so we try to make sure that all the youth that we serve have the opportunity to get that from us as well. Transportation, again, is a big thing. Prior to COVID, we were paying for bus passes on Suntran. We're really grateful that the city has kept that program free for everyone. It makes it a lot easier for us, for the students, and also saves us like $30,000 a year.
So that was the other thing, is the transportation. So you got giving them bikes, getting them bus passes and tram passes. What about guidance? The most important thing probably.
So that's a big thing for our youth, because obviously they don't always have folks in their life who are really helping them get through these different systems. The example I always give, I'm 42 years old and I still don't understand healthcare in this country.
Right.
And I can't imagine being 15, 16, or even 17, 18 when you're suddenly eligible for access in a lot of other government programs, trying to figure all that out step by step. Another issue a lot of youth have is that they don't have any documents. So, if your parents are gone, if they're incarcerated or have left you or whatever, you don't know where your birth certificate is, but you need to get a driver's license. And so you're going to need to figure out how that's going to work. So there are other organizations in town or other folks that can help connect them with those things. Anything that we don't really do specifically, we definitely try to refer them to other organizations to help them get that support.
Yeah, it says right here that I'm on my notes, because then there's some of the other things with the guidance is housing referrals, personal counseling, getting them the information. Like I wouldn't know how to track my birth certificate down. That's the point. When I was going on the website, like you just see some of these stories and it's a kid saying, my mom decided to stop being a parent. And I'm like, what? That's the most heartbreaking sentence I've ever read. And this kid's saying, and I had to go do this and go do that, and Youth on Their Own helped me, and amazing. But I just know how hard it is because I talk to so many organizations. I know how hard it is for kids these days just growing up, just because it always is hard growing up, but I feel like we're more divided now over lots of topics. And I don't mean politics. I just mean even how we educate. I couldn't fathom like being 16 and be like, no, I got to really make sure I get to school today. How do you just inspire these kids to do it? Because I'm sure that the incentive of like paying them is probably one of the biggest factors, and I think is huge. I was going to say, hey, what's the secret? Oh, you pay them. So, but that helps a lot because you do need to incentivize these kids. Their whole situation is just so heartbreaking.
Yeah, I mean, we asked the youth, what's the best thing or what's making you stay in the program, what's helping you stay in school, and there's no really magic way around it. Financial support is important. If you're experiencing poverty, you have a certain level of needs that somebody who's not is probably not really thinking about. On the other hand, I've heard many, many youth say how much they appreciate knowing how many folks in Tucson support them. So you'll see these star magnets on the back of people's cars. I've had kids say, oh, I've seen that, and it really makes me feel great to know that that person doesn't know me, but I know that they support YOTO, and that program's been really helpful for me. One thing that we have volunteers do sometimes is write little notes to youth, which we put in, their mini mall bags and stuff. And I know for sure many youth who keep them for years because it's something that just in that moment is helpful to know that somebody's out there. And I think that's what's really powerful and amazing about YOTO is it is this very cool Tucson organization that's supported by folks here and supports folks here. So the youth that see, all the different events when somebody has a golf tournament that's benefiting YOTO or a percentage night or learns about different people who've been part of the program. Gary Hickia, who he's mentioned, he's the executive chef at El Charo. He was in the program way back in the day. and just all those things that they could become and could do, and see all these folks who do support them. I think it makes it a little bit easier to go through some of those difficult things, knowing that it's not the world against you completely, that there are people here in their community who want to see them succeed.
Is that how Chef Gary Hickey got his start in culinary arts?
I don't know if he went to school like college because of us. I just remember learning that, and I was like, oh my gosh, Gary.
That's amazing. Because
we work with El Charro sometimes for events and stuff, and and that happens, honestly, not infrequently. If I forget to take off my name tag or have my YOTO shirt on and go into a business, often somebody will say, oh, I was in the program, cashier at Safeway, or one of our donors had it happen at Safelight. She got her window replaced, and the young man who replaced it, oh yeah, I was in the program, and he noticed the little star on the back of her car.
Wow. So how does one get a little star on the back of their car?
Just let me know. Come to our office. We've got a whole bunch of them. We love to give them out. It's amazing. Again, the youth really appreciate knowing that there are so many people here in Tucson who support them. And like you said, it's not a political thing. It's across the entirety of the Tucson community. And I think that's a pretty amazing and powerful thing.
Yeah, seeing is believing. And those symbols mean a lot. And again, that symbol might not mean something to you, but that's because you don't recognize what it is. These kids that see that as like, wow, that person helped me. Mm-hmm. They did help me. That says a lot. It really does. And just that connection, because it's Tucson. That's Tucson for you, by the way. Mm-hmm. You're going to go somewhere and you're going to bump into somebody. And that's how this place works. So it might be really even good to the people who do donate to see that face. In a way, I help that person. Mm-hmm. Like, that's huge. Is to volunteer, help people, do what you can, donate your time. So that's usually something I get to later, but let's just go on with it now. How can people get involved and volunteer? If they're not donating money, donate their time. That's what I always tell people. How can people get involved?
So getting involved is a really great thing to do. We have a certain number of volunteer activities, which I will say until we move to the new space, we're putting a pause on volunteer hiring because we don't even know what it's going to look like yet. But as I mentioned, we've got all these wonderful volunteers. They stock the mini mall. They put barcodes on items. They help unpackage things. They put the packages together for the youth when they order something online. They drive that out to schools. I mean, we have volunteers who will drive things out to cells. And it's really amazing to see the commitment that they have. A lot of them have been with YOTO longer than I have and have a very long history. And, for example, Ann Young, our founder, will talk all the time about how volunteers helped her start the organization. We didn't have an executive director until, I want to say, the early 2000s. So,
wow.
The first decade and a half of this was pretty much Ann and some volunteers. And it's what kept YOTO going. And there's a lot of organizations that are small. They'll get started and they kind of, run off or kind of fade out. And Ann will tell you that volunteers are what kept YOTO going.
That's incredible. So we'll get all that volunteer information. You can get it on the website. It's yoto.org. Mm-hmm. All right. I guessed it correct. So it's yoto.org, and you can go find out how you can get involved. How you can maybe volunteer, work in the mini mall, how you can volunteer, maybe help with some of these deliveries. They're going to get all that organized after they get things opened up. And let's talk about that big opening of your big new home. What is it called? What are you calling it? Is it just Youth on Their Own, or does it have like the Dream Campus? Does it have one of these lofty titles like some of these places have?
No, we're just calling it Youth on Their Own.
There you go.
We call it our forever home because we're not doing this again anytime soon.
I love it. It's a nice building. It's a good place. And they're going to have the big open house. It's going to be Saturday, November 11th. Yes?
That's the first one, yes.
What are you planning on having and doing at the open house?
Oh, it's just an opportunity for folks to come in. We're going to be giving tours. We'll probably have some cookies or little, refreshments of some sort. We're offering a few ways for folks to get involved. We know that, not everybody has a ton of money. They're not going to be able to give at the Angel charity level, for example. So we've got another a tile wall going up, an art installation in the courtyard. Santa Teresa Tile Works is doing it for us. The middle panel is done, and it looks beautiful. But we're going to have 2 other panels where folks can donate at $500 is the lowest and up to have a permanent place in the YOTO building.
Love it.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing because, again, after that's done, it's done, and we're not doing this again. We also have a great partnership with Ben's Bells. And folks who donate $100 are eligible to get a bell. And so if you can come pick it up at the open house, it's a special bell. It's a YOTO bell. What do you call that? One of a kind, sort of handcrafted thing.
Exclusive.
Exclusive bell. And if folks don't want to pick them up, we're also saying, if you donate $100, we'll put one in the mini mall for YOTO youth to grab. So we like to be able to partner with folks as we're doing this. And, there's no reason anybody has to make a donation to come. We just would love to have as many people experience the space as possible. We've got a series of different events available for that. But also, if folks can't make it, we're doing it on I think it was the 11th, the 18th of November, and the 2nd of December.
Absolutely.
You can always give us a call. We can arrange a private tour, especially if your club or your place of worship or your place of work would like to check it out, where we'd love to show folks around it. The reason that YOTO is as big as it is because as many people have gotten involved. We don't have any federal funding. We have a little bit from the city and the county, but we don't really rely on government funding or even any one large donation. It's really the many smaller contributions from the thousands of people in Tucson that support us that have made it possible. And it also, I think, again, makes it cool for the youth because they know it's not just one person who's, oh, this is the thing I like. Everybody is part of it. Everyone's part of the YOTO family. The tax credit is huge for us. I don't know if folks know that it went up this year. It's $421 per person and $841 per couple filing jointly.
Yep.
And it will go up again next year. I guess that's the new thing. They're going to be changing it with inflation. But that is a huge thing for Youth on Their Own and so many other nonprofit organizations in town. And it doesn't cost you anything.
Nope. And you can listen to previous episodes of Lifestyle Tucson. I think I talked with IBE about this, how to use your tax credit, use it intelligently. Donate to some of these great organizations in town. You just get money to give them. It doesn't cost you a dime. I think you actually get to write it off, do whatever you can, right? So really go look into that. Maybe listen to a previous episode or find out from YOTO how exactly to do it correctly. I'm sure they're willing to give you all the answers and all the information you need to make sure that they're getting all the help that they can get from you. I really do express how much I want people to visit. Because seeing's believing. And I interact with too many people in my own life that are looking for something. And they always say, like, I feel like I should join the Peace Corps is like the default for I want to do something for someone. And I think your organization is the organization of everyone. I think it's the one that everyone could go to, visit, find out about, and go, yes, this is for me. Because everyone was a kid. Everyone was a young adult, and everyone knows how hard school is. Yep. And I think that you going there and seeing it, if you get involved and then these kids see you, you're a hero instantly. You're a hero to just a young person growing up that says, you know, if it wasn't for these people, I would not be where I am when they're talking in 4 years after they graduate. It's so easy to help people, but you got to get off the couch and you got to get out of your house. Go make some new friends, and they're all down at YOTO. All right. They're all down at Youth on Their Own. So do that and go find out how you can donate that tax credit because, again, the dollar goes a long way too, and every dollar counts. Not everyone is the size of Angel Charity, of course not, but every dollar counts because a notebook doesn't cost much. So if you donate 10, you just bought 10 notebooks for kids. That's what I want you to do. Go find out everything on their website. Go visit on these great days. And now let's talk about some of the people that are going to be visiting, coming back on March 5th at the TCC at the Youth on Their Own Family Reunion. Tell me about this great big event.
So we do this every year. It used to be called the Spring Lunch, but now we thought, YOTO Family Reunion sounds good. We did that right after COVID because, we couldn't meet for such a long time.
Yeah.
And it's just a lunch that we have every year to talk about the amazing folks who've been part of the YOTO program and who've made the YOTO program possible. So we try to invite as many alumni as we can and have supporters come in and check out, everything that's been happening in YOTO for the last year. It's more of a celebration than anything else.
It sounds like it.
It's low key too.
Oh, is it low key?
Low key, no ball gowns or anything like that. It's just a lunch.
Dress casual. I wear a tuxedo wherever I go, but there's nothing wrong with that. Gold shoes as well. But if you here's the lofty question as we're running out of time because that's how quick this went. Because you could tell I listen back when I had these things. You could tell with this, I'm like chomping at the bit to talk to you, like with this information, because I really care. And I want everyone else to care. So if you had one wish for your organization, what would it be?
Gosh, one wish for YOTO. I think it's just making sure that everyone is getting involved in it. Youth on Their Own is addressing, one issue. It's the issue of youth homelessness and high school graduation. We want to see youth graduate. And our graduation rate is 82%, which is high. Pima County is only 75%. Arizona youth experiencing homelessness is in the mid-50s. So we know we're making a difference. But we can't do everything. There are so many other things that impact the youth that we're serving: access to basic needs, access to quality public education, access to housing. So these are all things that a lot of people care about and a lot of people think about, but getting involved is what's really important and trying to understand and learn how those things are connected. Donating is super important and great. There's, again, with the financial stipend, there's no way around it. Resources are needed. But at the same time, it's important to know what's happening and to get involved and to care about the community that you live in. And I think if you care about Tucson, YOTO is a great organization because it really is a Tucson thing. It started here. It's funded almost entirely by folks here. And it serves youth who are here and who will probably be staying here. So even if you want to look at it from purely economic terms, you can see it as an investment in the future of the community you live in, because most of the youth that we're serving are going to be here, and they're going to be the people who are working in our businesses later on in life.
And that's what you want. You want a bunch of successful, smart people that are able to do what they're going to do and able to help us when we go where we want to go in Tucson. Because again, it's a community. We're all neighbors, and you want your neighbors to be smart, educated, happy, successful people, right? Especially the next generation coming on up. We need all the help we can get. I know I'm getting older, geez. But that's the point, and your great organization is doing exactly that. And thank you for coming in here and sharing all this stuff. It sounds like that wish is for Tucson to just care just a little more, and I know Tucson can grant that wish. Because today, we made friends with Bethany Neumann, Director of Development and Communications for Youth on Their Own, supporting the high school graduation and continued success of youth experiencing homelessness. Thank you for joining me today, Bethany.
Thanks for having me.
This was Lifestyle Tucson. Bing bong bing, time for a recap. How good was that conversation? But yes, chomping at the bit to talk to Youth on Their Own, because everything that I said was true. I've wanted to talk to this great organization for a long, long time. I really believe that helping young adults, teens, get through this huge, trying speed bump in their lives, because that's all it is. If you can help them overcome this moment, they turn into fine adults that are taking care of themselves. We're not trying to solve an illness here. We're not trying to just keep giving money to something that's kind of never ending. You can help these kids, and the proof's in the pudding when they get a diploma. So that's really important. And shout out to my man, Chef Gary Hickey from El Charo and the Monica. I love you, buddy. Look forward to their big family reunion on March 5th at the TCC. Dress casual, but make sure you go and have some fun there. You get to meet a lot of these success stories right in front of your eyes. And really go visit. Go visit. Just go tour some of the website if you don't want to leave your house yet. It's yoto.org. You can go follow them on all the social mediums. I've looked at them. They're everywhere. All right. Just go look for Youth on Their Own, this amazing Tucson organization that you should get involved with. I meet a lot of people that are looking for something in their lives and they feel a little useless, or like they're not doing enough, or they're not making a difference. And that Peace Corps thing is just like, I feel like I should join the Peace Corps. That old adage. That's the thing people feel. This is the organization that is going to help you scratch that itch to help people and see results, because you're going to see these results. There's nothing bigger or better in life than being a mentor. That's what I say. I've had mentors. It's one of the best things ever. Go be a mentor by helping out some youth on their own. So let's just wrap it up here, because I want to thank our new friends at YOTO for joining me today. You've been listening to Lifestyle Tucson. If you're a nonprofit that would like to be on the show, email lifestyletucson@gmail.com. For more information about this program, or to listen to something you may have missed, go to the Sunday Mornings page on klpx.com, kfma.com, mixfm.com, or espntucson.com. You can also subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Audible, or wherever fine podcasts are youthful. Follow on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Lifestyle Tucson, because I'm your BFF, your best Frank forever, Frank Powers. Toot toot Tucson. I love you the most.